This is Attack of the 20th Century. Thank you for joining us as we explore science fiction, fantasy, and horror films of the 20th century. I'm your host, Jeff.
And I'm your other host, Mike.
Welcome to episode 51, where we continue our spooky season series with Taste the Blood of Dracula from 1970. Look for us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Attack of the 20th Century. That's 20th. We post our next movie selection there. You can comment and give your thoughts, and they just might make it on the air. And as always, you're welcome to email us at attackofthe20thcentury@outlook.com. All right, it's good to have you here, Mike.
Yeah.
We're doing something different that we haven't done before. We're actually recording this out of my camper. Every few years, a couple of the guys, or a few of us, we get together and we attend a music festival. And this is in Brooksville, Florida, we're talking about. It happens that what's going on right now is a blues music festival. So you might hear some blues music in the background. We get together, we hang out, we enjoy some great tunes together, camp in the woods. And this time, we're actually going to record a podcast in the midst of all this lunacy, which is pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, it is. Taking the show on the road.
That's right. Also, we usually start with what you've been watching lately. And I thought it would be fitting that we talk about the bands that we've been watching.
Yeah.
So if you're a fan of blues music, we're going to talk through some of the groups that we've been observing the last few days, give them some press. And if you want to check them out online and follow them and show them some love, go for it.
I have to say, though, like the music here, off the charts.
Yes.
It's really good.
Yeah. Specifically, the event we're at this weekend is called Camping with the Blues. It is at Florida Sand Music Ranch, like I said, in Brooksville.
Yep.
But let's talk about some of the groups. So Friday night, we saw. Yeah, go for it.
For me, Street Preacher from Jacksonville, Florida.
Yes.
Awesome. Had an amazing guitarist, and an amazing
Lead singer.
Yeah. Lead singer who was a girl. And she just, you could feel the passion while she's singing. The guitarist was, I felt like I was watching Jimi Hendrix at some points. It was really, really good.
And he was a young dude. He was super tall.
Yeah.
He had some big hair, and he was looking down a lot. He seemed kind of, timid and sheepish.
Yep.
On stage, but when he played with such amazing feeling.
Honestly, I think he was one of the best I've seen in a long time. He was really, really good.
Yeah.
And they're new. Like they don't even have an album out yet. So
I know, I was disappointed they don't have an album. We did get to talk to them afterwards, and they're working on it. They've been working on an album. They've been together about a year, is what the guitarist told me. And the lead singer, she's incredible. So this is kind of a danger with blues music. Sometimes you'll get singers that sound, I call it stock. They sound like, kind of like what you would think of with blues singers. Mm-hmm. Not this lady. She's got amazing pipes, but it's a different sound. It's so soulful, and she's got incredible range, all the things you would expect from a female blues singer.
Yep.
But the quality of her voice is not stock. It is not normal. It is really something special and unique.
Yep.
They're called the Street Preachers. So definitely check them out. Look them up.
One of my favorites was probably Joey Gilmore, which was like traditional blues. The guys, he looked similar maybe to B.B. King, sitting down, sunglasses on.
Giant guitar.
Like, if you associate blues with that traditional sound of like da da na na, that's it was similar. I would say in that vein, just very traditional.
Yeah.
And man, I loved it. I thought it was great. They're all talking on stage, just chatting it up, and while they're playing.
Yeah.
So I think I turned to you, Jeff, and I was like, it's like we're watching a play. It's like, it's really fun to watch.
So I play guitar, and I've been on stage. There's always this feeling that you got to give a performance, or do a show, or it was really cool. They were so conversational. They were actually talking back and forth. There was a lead guitar player, and then Joey Gilmore, the lead singer that kind of resembled B.B. King. Like you said, he's sitting down with that giant guitar. And they're just talking. And he's like, hey, tell me what you're feeling right now. And the lead guitar player would start playing these just real smooth riffs.
Yeah.
And he would laugh and say, let me show you what I'm feeling right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Joey would start playing. And I just loved how relaxed it was my point in all this.
Yeah.
It was so relaxed. They weren't putting on a show. They were, right?
Yeah.
But it didn't feel that way. It felt like we're just watching some friends.
Doing a jam session.
Doing a little jam session.
Yeah. It was cool.
Another group I wanted to mention, David Julia, his band.
Oh, yeah.
They weren't straight blues. They had some reggae. They had some 1970s funk.
Yeah.
They did a cover. But they have their own songs. Man, they were so tight. The band was so tight. The guitarist, who was also the singer, he was super cool. Like, he did some really magnificent riffs. So, yeah, I just wanted to call them out. As far as what we've been watching lately, this is very much what we've been watching this weekend.
Yep, exactly.
Good stuff. This week, we did watch Taste the Blood of Dracula from 1970. It is the fourth in the series of Hammer Dracula films. So I'm excited to do this. I don't know why we're doing them out of order, but it's just the way the cookie crumbles, Mike.
I mean, listen, you can't be perfect, right?
That's right. Of course, what's cool is the very first podcast we did, episode 1, was Horror of Dracula, the first Dracula film in the Hammer horror series. So we're definitely fans of Hammer. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the synopsis, but I do want to mention that this is a spoilerific podcast. So if you haven't seen the film, I think it's on HBO Max right now. Of course, it changes month to month, but at this time, it is on HBO Max. Check it out. Really, this whole film revolves around these 3 English gentlemen. They have good families. They are well respected in the community. They attend their church.
They do charity work.
They do charity work once a month. But they live this lurid, hidden life that their families and nobody else knows about. And they call themselves the Circle, these 3 guys. And they go to basically places of ill repute, right?
Yeah.
They definitely do a lot of alcohol. Looks like they do some drugs. Mm-hmm. On one specific occasion, they're at one of these places that, English gentlemen shouldn't be seen at. And we're basically talking about a brothel. And they meet this guy named Lord Courtley, played by Ralph Bates. This guy intrigues them because he has all of these prostitutes who follow him, and they pay his bills, and they kind of worship this guy.
Yeah, pretty much everyone does his bidding.
Yeah.
And these guys are thrill seekers. They want like the best of everything.
Yes.
Of whatever life can give them.
Yes.
And they look at this guy and they're like, wow.
There's something pretty cool here.
There's something he has that we don't have.
Yeah. So they approach Lord Courtley. They want to know, like, what he's doing. And again, this guy, he practices black magic. So they take him to dinner, and he's like, look, I have something, but it's going to take some money. But it's going to be the biggest thrill you've ever had, and you're going to live forever, basically, if you do these things. He talks them into going and buying, basically, artifacts from Dracula's last killing, from the last movie.
I will say, though, he put the, like, on the line what it is, right? You're giving up your soul, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't just money.
Yeah.
Money was just the vessel to get you to the point where you have to sell your soul.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting watching these guys ponder the thought of doing that.
They wrestle with it. And, there's basically one guy that is like, what's in it for us?
Yeah.
It would be worth it if our life was extended. And he's like, it will be infinitely.
Yeah.
So they agree, and they purchase the artifacts of Count Dracula. That includes his cape, his brooch,
His signet.
his signet.
Which I'm not sure what that is. What is a signet?
We don't have signets today, do we? And then his blood that is in what is it? Like a test tube?
Like a little vial. Yeah.
Little vial, yeah. And it's actually powder that's his blood. And they made it this creepy old church that Lord Courtly has decorated with all sorts of satanic and evil decorations now.
I think I was mentioning this, Jeff. Why does it always have to be a creepy old church? Why can't they do this like out on the beach while they're having margaritas, a little barbecue going on?
Yeah, you're right. It's never that way, is it?
Yeah, it never is. It's weird.
So they do this ceremony, and it doesn't go quite as planned. Lord Courtly drinks the blood concoction. He falls down. He's like, help me, help me. He's wanting the 3 men to drink as well. They refuse, and instead they're so scared and so upset, they beat him to death, right?
Yeah.
And they flee the scene of the crime. They go home to their families. They tell their families, hey, if anybody ever asks, we were here all night. They're establishing an alibi. What happens, though, the ceremony was successful. Ralph Bates' character, Lord Courtly, becomes Christopher Lee's Count Dracula. Mm-hmm. And when Count Dracula rises from the grave, he says, I'm going to emit revenge against these 3 guys that killed my servant, right?
Yep.
Dracula's plan is to use the children of each of these men to kill those men. So he wants their children to kill them. It's not good enough for him to burst in, bite them on the neck, and drink their blood and say, ha, 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 ha.
You really are an evil man, Dracula. That's about as bad as it gets. Your children kill you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So that's what he does. One by one, he uses the children to kill them. Now, let's talk a little bit about, there is a love story that's going on.
Yep.
So you have Alice, played by Linda Hayden. She is the daughter of probably the meanest and nastiest guy, which is Sir William, played by Jeffrey Keane. And if you're not familiar with Jeffrey Keane, if you're a James Bond fan, he played M, or the Minister of Defense, for 10 years in 6 different Bond films. And he was a spectacular actor. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yep.
So she's got a relationship with the son of one of the other 3 guys of the circle, and his name is Paul. And they just want to be together. It was definitely young love at its finest. They're courting each other. Of course, Sir William is completely against it. That's a big part of the story. And it's a big part because Paul is ultimately our hero of this film. Like, he's got to save Alice from Dracula, despite, her being under his spell and committing horrible acts, because she does kill her own father. Mm-hmm. Without going through all the details, basically all 3 of those English gentlemen are killed by their children ultimately.
This is true until he's always defeated, right? He wakes up, does his dirty deeds, and he gets defeated.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty regular, too.
Yeah.
He wakes up, he sucks some blood, he coaxes some girls into doing his bidding.
I think you mentioned this. It's like Groundhog Day for him.
It is.
He just goes through the same scenario. He changes things up a little.
Yeah.
But it always draws us in.
It always draws us in, yeah.
These movies are...
For us, it may have been 100 years, or 10 years, or whatever the number is. But for him, he's took a nap. He wakes up. He's going to drink some blood. He's going to kill some people. And then some jerk is going to show up and shove something in his chest. Or in this movie, the ending's a little different. He doesn't get stabbed in the chest with a cross or anything.
No.
Or with stake.
Yeah. It's a little different. We'll get into that at the end a little bit. But
yeah. That's pretty much the synopsis. So, Mike, what is your history with this film and maybe just overall the Hammer Dracula series?
So, it's interesting because I've been a horror fan for years, and probably about maybe 30 years ago, I purchased a best of horror scores.
Yeah.
CD. Mm-hmm. And so I went through everything from the oldest Dracula movie from the 20s.
Yeah, from Bela Lugosi, Universal.
Yeah. All the way from there to kind of like modern horror. But one of the scores that always was like, I love this score, I really need to watch this movie, was Taste the Blood of Dracula.
Yeah.
It's just, it starts out happy, like literally from the music you can tell, okay, this is a love story.
Yeah.
And then, it gets dark, and it's something happens. So just the music itself really tells a story. And I highly recommend, if anyone's into soundtracks or whatever, definitely put this one on your rotation, because it's fun, it's good, and it's composed by James Bernard.
Yeah.
Who composed a lot of the greatest scores in movie history. I mean, Psycho. I think you mentioned North by Northwest.
Absolutely.
Just amazing composer.
Yeah. And he did a lot of the early Hammer horror films, and he did some of the Ray Harryhausen films we've covered, like Jason and the Argonauts.
Yep.
Yeah. Outstanding.
But in terms of the whole, Hammer series, I think I only saw Horror of Dracula. And maybe one of the more modern ones, but I know I didn't see this one.
Yeah.
When I was younger. It's only been when I've been older where I'm like trying to explore some of the greats of horror that I've really kind of dug into Hammer horror. And I mean, anyone that's out there that has not dug into these movies, I recommend it, because if you like, I don't know, like one of the things I've been watching is a couple of the Friday the 13th movies recently, trying to get in the Halloween spirit, and I'm realizing just there's something about these movies that more modern movies don't have, and I think it's an eeriness.
Yeah.
And I know that Friday the 13th, but it's just not the same as the gothic style that we get from these movies.
Yeah. Yeah. Friday the 13th is more slasher, shock. This is more, there's a lot of implication of things. Like, you don't really see the violence or the sex.
Yeah.
It's more, things are implied. Whereas I think Friday the 13th and later, it's like, hey, we're going to just show you all this stuff.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it has its place. It's not terrible films. I like Friday the 13th series, but there's just something about these older gothic style horror movies that draw you in and make you, I don't know, feel like creepy. Like it's creepy.
It's definitely great Halloween stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I'm with you. We mentioned we'd reviewed The Horror of Dracula from 1958. I've seen The Brides of Dracula.
Yep.
We'll review that in the future. I haven't seen Prince of Darkness. Dracula has risen from the grave. You and I have seen it.
Yeah.
We'll have to review that in the future.
Yep.
Taste the Blood of Dracula. I haven't seen Scars of Dracula. Dracula AD 1972 I've seen. We'll have to review that at some point. And The Satanic Rites of Dracula. Now, you've seen it.
I have. That one I think we should do on the show, because it is just a weird, wacky, I mean, it throws the whole kitchen sink in.
Yeah, right.
So...
And then there's one called The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires, like mixing Kung Fu with Dracula.
And I have not seen that, but I got to see that one.
Yeah. We'll end up doing all of these, I think, at some point, because, we're big horror fans in general, but Hammer horror, the classic stuff, I love it.
There's also it's weird. There's almost like a comforting feeling in it, right? In the sense that, once you've seen a couple of the Christopher Lee Dracula movies, it's like you're coming back to something that but it's a different spin on it. It's almost in a way like maybe the 007 movies, right?
Yeah.
You know what you're in for.
Right.
You know the character. It's portrayed by different actors, which makes it kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But it's still like the same basic formula that it's just a fun watch, because you don't have to climb those mountains of understanding these characters. You know them already, right?
Yeah.
So we know Dracula. We know Christopher Lee's Dracula.
Yeah.
So that's why it's fun that he did, how many movies again? 8.
Well, there's 7 Dracula movies. I don't know how many he's done. Maybe 4 of them.
But him and Van
Peter Cushing.
Yeah, Peter Cushing. Both, we know those characters, and it starts out with them together.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of this magical thing where, not every single movie is great, or maybe it doesn't have the best ending, but they all have the same basic feel of just this great gothic, eerie feeling that you love.
Right. Well, actually, this is great because it gets us into our standouts.
Yeah.
So let's do our standouts. And I think you just touched on the first one. Even though we have a different guy that's directing this, let me see. His name is Peter Sasdy. And normally it's Terrence Fisher. Terrence Fisher was the original director. This feels like one of his films, to me anyway. It has all those elements that we would expect. This great gothic look. The old church, the interiors, the set design.
Oh, man, yeah.
All of that is just, man, it just feels so real. It feels old. Like this place is hundreds and hundreds of years old. And the mood that they set, there's always fog and it's dark at night. The trees all look creepy. There could be anything hiding anywhere. I think that's those early Hammer horror films, that's what they give you. That vibe, that mood is set. And a big part is the visuals and the direction.
I would agree. Yeah, the sets are honestly, the sets are more striking to me in this movie than they have been, I feel like, in some of the other movies we've watched.
Yeah.
Just because it's that traditional style of, like, I don't know, just you're going into a chapel, some bad stuff's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's got the candles, the black candles burning.
Right.
The creepy, symbols that are everywhere.
Yeah.
Whoever was the set designer did a good job in this
Oh,
film.
yeah. And even at their homes, I think of Alice when Paul comes out to the courtyard to see her.
Oh, yeah.
That great tree that goes right up to her window. What a fantastic tree, It's so convenient. She climbs down that thing to see him, and that courtyard's gorgeous.
Do you think that this was all set filmed, or was it on location filmed?
I don't know. I think a lot of it is set design.
It has to be, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of it. Maybe they reused some old stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe they, I'm sure they had to reuse some stuff.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. Have you seen Bram Stoker's Dracula by,
in the 90s?
By, oh my gosh, why can't
Coppola.
I remember? Coppola. Thank you.
Yeah.
I listened to a behind the scenes documentary about that movie. And what's interesting about it is it was completely set and set design. All of it was set design. It was all inside.
Wow.
And, that movie gives me some of these same vibes that some of these Hammer films give me.
Yeah.
Where it's very intricately designed to bring you into that world.
Yeah.
And I find it interesting because I love that movie.
Yeah.
And it gives me the same vibes as it does with this movie.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of an interesting question, does set design horror movies, do they work more efficiently or effectively than on set type films?
Yeah. And I know we trash CGI a lot.
Yeah.
But there is something about the craftsmanship, right? Physical models, physical things being built by hands.
Agreed.
And all that TLC that went into that look and that feel.
I mean, it's art, right?
It's art.
It's art. That is what the craft that we love.
Yes.
So, yeah, you just mentioned direction. That would be probably one of mine.
Yeah.
The scene where she is in her bedroom and her mom comes in and she's talking to her mom and her mom is in the mirror.
Yeah.
The framing of that was so well done.
Yeah.
So different. It kind of if anyone can film two people talking, but when you had it to where it's set up to where her mom is in the mirror, Like, I feel like the director was trying to tell us something there.
Yeah.
Like, maybe the daughter is like seeing things through a mirror, through looking at her parents differently.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what is the director trying to tell us with that particular shot, right?
Right.
There's separation, or
yeah.
I don't know, but it was just different than anyone can just film two people talking, and
right.
he chose to frame it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The mom was in the mirror. The girl's looking up at her mom. But it was just fantastic. And I think you're touching on something, and that's that this girl did not want to live the same life her mother did.
Mm-mm.
She did not want this man, her father, to squash her hopes and dreams. And she perceived her mom to be somebody that had at once been young and vibrant and had full of hopes and dreams. And this man had like crushed her soul, basically.
Yep.
She was determined, like, this lady that I'm looking at in the mirror, this lady is not the woman I want to become.
Maybe, yeah.
That's how I read into it.
Exactly, yeah.
It's just really pretty brilliant.
It wasn't done on accident.
No.
It's not like he said to himself, it'd be a cool shot. I think there was meaning involved in that shot.
Yeah, I think so. And I'm sure there was somebody who's like, hey, if we want to save some time, we could just put a camera right here and have them two talking. And he's like, no, we've got to get at the mom in the mirror. And you have to do the mirror shot in a special way that you don't get the camera in the mirror. And then the lighting has to be just right.
Yeah.
I'm sure it took a little while to get that shot set up.
Yeah. A couple other directing things that I just thought were really cool. Honestly, at the end scene where he picks up that cross and it starts to glow.
Yeah.
And she's behind him. She's kind of cowering behind him. And he is picking up the mantle of being the hero. Yeah. Right? And that cross is glowing.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, she ruins it.
She knocks the cross down.
But, you can't blame her,
Yeah, she was under his trance.
Yeah, exactly. All is forgiven.
Oh, and then what about the goblet scene?
Yeah, so that's another one. Yeah, the goblet scene, drinking the blood. I mean, a lot of the goes into the special effects, which, to be honest with you, I am not a fan of the special effects in this movie.
Uh-huh.
I feel like some of it definitely took away from it.
Yeah.
But the goblet scene is not one of them. That was very cool, having the blood drip into the cup. Yeah. With the powder, and I think we were joking around. We're like, "Oh, that's a pretty cool special effects. Oh, they're going to do it 3 times. They're getting their money's worth on that scene."
They knew it was cool too.
Yeah, which it probably wasn't very difficult. Like, you probably just pump liquid into the bottom of the cup,
right?
But it worked effectively. And the third one, I thought it was cool how the blood runneth over the cup. It's just very symbolic.
Yeah.
And just that whole scene between the set, the framing of the screen, the special effects, I just thought the directing in that scene was excellent.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course the acting goes into that as well.
Yeah. So an acting performance I'll throw out, Linda Hayden as Alice. Hammer horror always has beautiful women. They fall into one or of two categories. They're either the young, beautiful, virginal types. They get lured in by Dracula, and then they're just basically converted, or they're, killed by him. Or they're kind of women of the night, that type, right? Mm-hmm. And then, they're dying, right? Because they never make it to the
Yeah.
But Linda Hayden as Alice, she shows such great acting range, which is unusual for a Hammer film, for the leading actress to be able to have this kind of opportunity. She's got this young, innocent, in love persona with Paul, and we'll talk about that in a few moments, but she definitely plays like a child, right? Like, she sleeps in bed with a baby doll. Like, they even have a baby doll up on our wall. So she kind of has this young innocence thing going for her.
Yep.
She's got her interactions with her mother. She definitely knows what her mom's going through. She feels bad for her mother. There's that compassion, love. You get
felt
that
it all.
You definitely felt it, right?
It's honestly, I mean, it's partly writing, right? But it's also, her performance was very good.
Oh,
believable.
And then when she becomes converted by Dracula, she becomes this evil trickster. Remember when she gets Lucy into that cart, and she's just cackling, this evil laughter, and gets her to go into that church, and she gets Lucy to go up to Dracula, and then Lucy's like, no, I don't want any part of this, and she tries to escape. Well, she becomes like pretty violent with Lucy, starts bending her arm backwards, hurting her. She's like, no, you're going to go over there. You're going to talk to Dracula, whether you like it or not. All of that was super believable. And then obviously, she also plays the sultry, I'm just in love with Dracula. Yeah. I just want anything this guy will give me, right? Like I am just a complete servant of his. But there's one scene in particular I want to mention when Dracula's like, I have no more use for you. And he like throws her down. That look that she gives him. Yeah. Is a look of a woman that has been scorned. You know that old saying.
Hell hath no fury.
Yeah. That look that she gives him. And I'm like, wow, this actress has such dynamic range. Yeah. And I give her a stand up for that.
Also, just the love story between her and
Paul.
Paul, yeah. So, very believable, right? And you're right about the range. Like she went from, you felt for her in the father situation, you believed that her mind had been, taken over by Dracula, and then, but you also in the love story scenes, you believe she's in love, with Paul, and got to give props to Paul too. Like he was perfect for this role as well. Yeah. Did Topher Grace though? Did he go back in time and like literally this guy looks exactly like Topher Grace? Yeah, yeah. Topher Grace, that's his name, right?
I think so.
Yeah. From 70s show.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And so Paul is played by Anthony Corlin.
Yes.
Which I hadn't seen him in anything else before, but he was a good lead.
He had a bit part in Raiders, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Yeah, yeah. Little bit part.
Oh, that's cool. So another standout, Jeffrey Keane playing William, which is Alice's father. So I kind of think of The Corpse Bride. Remember the dad there? He has this perpetual frown. Yeah. I think he's just kind of round. He is always upset. Yeah. Kind of grumpy. He's a great baddie. Like, you really like to hate this guy.
I think the only time I saw him smiling in the whole movie was when they were at the dinner and he's talking to the guy about like the next great adventure, like thing that like pushing things to the extreme, right? So yeah, he sold that scene very good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, only flash a smile when it's just deliciously evil. Yeah. And he didn't do that a lot. But I thought it was great. I mean, he was obviously just a nasty SOB to his family. Treated his daughter like crap, his wife like crap. He's playing out that like he's going to go do missions work, even though he's going to, a brothel.
Gets out of the carriage. He pushes the kids to the side. Yeah. Get out of my way.
He's disgusted by their filthy faces. He's mean to his friends. There's only 3 of them. We call it a circle. It's not like there's 10 friends here. There's only 3 of them. And he is so ready to kick out that one guy, Paul's dad, Mr. Paxton. He's ready to kick him out at just a drop of a hat. Yep. I mean, he's mean to the guy running the brothel even. Yeah. This guy is like really bending over backwards to make this guy feel at home, set up some good, wholesome entertainment of a lady dancing with a snake.
Wholesome. Yeah.
He's like, I'm quite bored with all the entertainment you've been showing lately. I expect something better this time. Oh, I have something you'll be really pleased with.
This time a woman with a snake. It just wasn't enough, huh? You got to sell your soul.
Yeah, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough for this guy. But I thought, too, like the similarities between him and Dracula. Like this guy is just as evil. I think it goes back to that idea that evil is evil. Whether you're the Prince of Darkness or you're a guy that's pretending to be a wholesome member of the community, this guy's a bad dude. Yep. And just, the way he treats his friends, his family. I thought about Dracula, right? Like Lucy comes up to Dracula and she's like, "Oh, did I make you happy, master? Are you happy with me?" And like, it wouldn't do Dracula any harm to say, "You did great, babe." I am pleased.
Exactly what I wanted.
It's like it wouldn't take much for these bad dudes to just throw a little charity out there.
Yeah.
And they won't do it. You know why? Because they're evil. And I think this guy, Jeffrey Keane, he does an awesome job playing just a bad dude, but he's not like a caricature. You know what I mean? Like, you get he's not like, "Hey, I'm evil."
Well, I think that all three of those guys together, they all were different personalities, but all seeking this like thrill lifestyle.
Yeah.
They wanted something that would be not boring, right?
Yeah.
And they kept on, whatever they were doing was boring, so they'd keep on pushing it out. And all three performances of those guys really sold it as these are, I mean, honestly, it's kind of sad, but I'm sure there's people out there that are like this,
Yeah.
And it was very believable. I think in the blood scene, I think that, the way that they at first were totally on board with this idea, at the dinner.
Uh-huh.
And then once they got there, they were given the glass. It was interesting to see the acting of them turning from being totally on board with this idea to, being scared.
Yeah. Yeah.
To do this.
Well, they realized like this isn't what we thought.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the devil, right?
Yeah.
He's going to trick you, right? He's the greatest trickster.
Yeah.
Another standout I'll throw out is to the screenwriter. His name is Anthony Hines, but he's credited as John Elder in the film. So I don't know that story. Obviously, the characters are based on Bram Stoker, his original creations. But this whole idea of these three bored men having it all, trying to keep up appearances, living this crazy, hidden, lurid lifestyle, looking for kicks. I thought it was a great misdirect. And I know you haven't seen Twins of Evil, but Peter Cushing plays this kind of guy. He's a religious zealot. He's hunting down people who he thinks are in the occult, and he's burning them at the stake. And he's this way with his nieces. And so when I first saw this dude, William, Alice's father, and the way he's talking to her, just beating her up because she smiled at a guy. And she's like, just talking to a guy, a young man. And he's like, "You owe us an apology."
You harlot.
You harlot. I can't have you, and it's just the way he delivered it. I thought this guy's going to be just some zealot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when they go to the missions trip, and he's just so unhappy, and just a jerk. When they open the door and they're going to a brothel, I was shocked.
Yeah.
What a great misdirect,
Exactly, because at first it could have been a character, right?
Yeah.
He could have been that religious zealot that throughout the whole movie, he's kind of strict about the way he wants his family.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Like amazing way of following a path of the movie that just we didn't expect.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it made it more interesting. It's like, okay, well, these guys live on lies and secrets. They're thrill seekers. And it did make things different.
Yeah. Good screenwriting, has you talking about it after, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about, okay, why did that happen the way that it did? And the fact that the really evil guy didn't drink the blood.
Yeah.
But yet the assistant did. And then Dracula wanting to get revenge. I know they beat him to death, but that guy would have died anyway, right? He would have dissolved and Dracula would have taken over his body.
Yeah.
So I think that it was actually the fact that they did not drink the vials of blood and his assistant had to do it for them.
Yeah.
That is why Dracula wanted to seek revenge.
Yeah. Now that makes sense. Why don't we get into setbacks?
I've got one.
All right, what you got?
So the beginning was very odd, I felt like, with that salesman.
Yeah, from Willy Wonka.
And the way that those guys behaved in the carriage, it made you think that there was like they were going to be part of the story. Mm-hmm. It was just so random. And maybe we just talked about how good the screenplay was. I was a little bit confused as to why they were so weird.
Yeah.
In the beginning of that movie.
Yeah.
Was it just to kind of maybe like throw us into this weird world,
Yeah, where anything can happen.
Yeah. It was really kind of strange. I almost felt like Dracula was controlling them, or like it was just really, really strange. It threw me off because I thought there was something that was going to be really important about the snow globe in the movie. And so that is the only part that I was just like, that's weird. Like, why did they do that?
Yeah, you and I talked about, like, it seemed like we were going to go back to those two guys at some point.
Yeah.
And we never did.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of random. Why have this guy that, was he just super aggressive? Was he mentally handicapped and aggressive? It was just
but
weird.
Why was the guy next to him like, you better do what he's telling you to do?
Yeah.
Like,
and if they were thieves, like, why did they throw his stuff out the window too? Why wouldn't they just throw him out the window or out the door?
It was random. It was so random.
No, I'm with you. I think a setback I have is the use of Christopher Lee. We love Christopher Lee as Dracula. He's probably my favorite Dracula in all the movies. That's another conversation.
Yeah.
But him in this film, and if you know the backstory of it, they originally weren't going to have Christopher Lee. And that guy, Ralph Bates, when he did the ceremony, he was going to become the lead vampire, Lord Courtly. But at some point, I guess the studio was like, well, no, we need Christopher Lee if we're going to make some money in this film. So you better get him in this movie. It kind of shows, I feel like, because he wasn't used to the best of his ability. Yeah. He shows up for these shots where he's just standing there over the dead bodies or people that are about to die, the three men that he's seeking revenge on. I just felt like he wasn't fully utilized. We didn't get horror of Dracula, Christopher Lee Dracula. Mm-hmm. We got kind of a caricature to a degree. There's just these shots where they're good, creepy shots, right? But when he's like, the first, and he's like, the second, yep. The third. Yeah. I did think a little bit of like Count Dracula.
3.
3 men murdered. I don't know. I would have liked to see him put up a fight at the end. Like even his death scene didn't really do him justice, right? I get it, the power of the cross, and you got the cross on one side, the cross on the other, and he goes up and he's like, ah, and his eyes are blood red, and there's the cross behind him. He smashes the window.
Yeah, yeah.
And all that. I would have liked to see our hero do something to Christopher Lee, or Christopher Lee kick a little bit of butt first.
Yeah,
and then get defeated. So I don't know. I just felt like he wasn't completely utilized in this movie the way I would have thought he could have been.
I agree with that. Yeah. I wouldn't say go to the point where I said he would say he phoned it in.
Yeah.
But I would say he just. I agree. It does seem shoehorned in, especially knowing the history of the film and how they made it. I wonder if there's actually scenes of that guy portraying Dracula.
Oh, yeah, Ralph Bates.
Maybe some behind the scenes stuff.
That would be cool to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See if that's out there.
Yeah. Any other setbacks?
The use of special effects,
like the resurrection of Dracula.
Especially the resurrection of Dracula was just terrible.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't the biggest fan of the end scene where he's like, his body is going away. It was okay. It wasn't like terrible, but that scene of the resurrection was not good.
Yeah. It looked weird, right?
It looked weird, looked kind of out of place for these movies. Mm-hmm. His red eyes were cool,
Yeah, it zoomed in on his red eyes.
Yeah, yeah, and then zoomed out of his red cape. That was good directing.
Yeah.
but it did kind of like take you out. It's kind of, in a way, it was like, it's almost like CGI. You know how sometimes CGI will take you out of a movie.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, that's fake. That was manipulation.
Yeah.
It was similar to that.
Yeah. 100% I agree. Like the quality of the movie looked worse. You know, and it did like this weird effect, like, or like whatever that clay type stuff attached to his face. Like it just crackled away. It's like it wasn't even zoomed in on his face. It felt like it zoomed in on a picture of his face.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
And then it cut to him standing there, like with his cape.
Yeah.
Which was cool. But that one effect was definitely the worst in the whole movie.
Yeah. And I think we both would agree also that the end scene, while it was cool, like it started off really cool, right? The scene I talked about where he's holding up the glowing cross.
Yeah.
And he goes towards the door. The cross is there. We see kind of Dracula, his power is draining.
Yeah.
You know, and then he goes up to the lofts or whatever it is, starts throwing stuff at them because he's mad, having a temper tantrum. And then, you know, he doesn't realize he's standing behind that cross. I felt like all of that was awesome.
Yeah.
But then he just dies.
Yeah.
And you want your heroes in movies, and you know, to do something that is heroic at the end of the movie. Something that takes the villain out.
Yeah.
And it is their doing. And I realized they did put the crosses around and stuff like that, but it was just kind of like a whimper of a kill.
You know what would have been cool? Like since the girl had been under the influence.
Oh yeah.
What if she took the cross and went and like just laid it on his chest? You know, when he fell down on that platform.
Yep.
And he's like, if she went, like took it from Paul and like either jammed it in his chest or stuck it in his mouth or did something like where she kills Dracula.
How cool would that, like a redemptiveness for that character that was so abused by her dad and then controlled by Dracula, like she's been abused, right?
Right.
She's taken back her power.
Yeah, an empowering moment.
A little empowering female moment.
Yes.
Oh well.
They missed out on that. But yeah, you're right. Even if Paul had done that, that would have been cool too.
Yeah.
You know, just like, hey, I'm the hero. I've saved the day.
Yep.
Look at me. But no, there wasn't any of that. So it was a little odd. I would have too liked to have seen a little more effort from our heroes.
I mean, don't get us wrong. We're not throwing shade on this movie.
Right.
I have to say, I really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, it's probably one of my favorite Dracula Hammer movies. I don't know how you feel about it, but
we'll get to that in a minute, Mike.
Yeah.
You're teasing. So let's talk about favorite scenes. I'll go with mine. You think about what you want to go with. But that scene where Alice is trying to escape her father and she goes down that tree and she's trying to run away and there's Dracula just standing there. And he gives her a little bit of a smile. She comes up to him. He hypnotizes her. And then her father comes stumbling out, drunk, just angry as could be. And I think I like this so much because it's so shocking. Because I bet until this point, Alice has been such a good girl. She's making all the right decisions. She's as pure as snow, right? I mean, just as wholesome as can be. And she goes up to her father and picks up a shovel and cracks this guy across the head and kills him. And then she turns around and looks at Dracula like, are you proud of me? You know, because she is completely entranced. I think that that's the power that Dracula has is exhibited in that scene. This girl would never kill anybody. But I think just the combination of the control that he has on this girl, the acting performances, the looks, the way she behaves in the scene, all of that is just like shocking and exciting, and it's like that. Wow, this is a Dracula movie.
Yeah, and the other thing is, in a weird way, like it's redemptive for her, right? She's so treated badly by her father. You get the feeling, that this has gone on for a while. Like, she is abused.
He's been a jerk for many years.
Yeah. And so it's weird because it's conflicting, right? It's definitely, she's being controlled. It's evil. She's killing someone. But, he was a bad character. He was a bad guy.
Yeah. And he was probably the number 2 villain.
Yeah. He got his just desserts.
Yeah,
right?
he did. Shovel to the head. What about you? What's your favorite scene?
For me, I have my favorite like still shot, like just one little frame, and that's the glowing of the cross scene at the very end. I just thought it was so cool. But for a scene, my favorite scene was the drinking of the blood scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just loved the turn of the characters. They're all like on board with this idea, and then all of a sudden they realize they are in
over their heads.
Mm-hmm. It's absolutely disgusting. They're not willing to do it. Mm-hmm. And then you think that the older guy, the evil guy we were just talking about, was going to do it.
Yeah.
But even him,
he chickened out.
This was too much for him.
Yeah.
And the cult leader guy, Courtly, ended up doing it, and it was good acting all around from everybody. I loved his death scene or his choking scene or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then they end up beating him to death. I could see that happening, right? These guys are all like bad guys, doing evil things, but it doesn't go their way, and they end up beating this guy to death.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, there's so many good scenes. When he goes home, when Sir William goes home, and he's like calls his wife, he's like wiping off the blood off his hands before he sees her, and he's like, I've been here all night. He tells his daughter, I've been here. And he snaps at her, screams at her. He goes and gets some something to drink, and he just starts to weep by the fire.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're not as cool as you thought you are, right?
The broken man.
Broken man. That whole scene was just, I thought it was excellently executed, right?
Yep.
But one other scene I wanted to mention, Paxton. The dad, he's got to try to kill his daughter, who's turned into a vampire. And the whole scene, his friend's going to do it for him. And he's like, there's just that fight or flight thing that happens, right? And he's been kicked around most of this movie. And he just breaks out a gun. He's like, you get away from her. And he finally gets some guts,
Yep.
And he shoots his friend on the shoulder. Well, that could be a setback we could talk about.
Yeah.
This guy's, the mortal pain that he feels from the grazing of his shoulder. But anyway, he chases out his friend out of there. He's wrestling with the whole idea, do I murder my daughter or not, even though she's turned into a vampire? And he's weeping over her. And he finally gets the guts to get the stick, something to kill her, and her eyes open. And he's like, ah! And he drops his stuff. And then Dracula's up. She gets up.
I think we all knew what was going to happen there, right? Anytime you delay killing a vampire, it never ends up good for you.
Now's the time in which we tell you our final assessment. Yay or nay, what say ye, Mike? Should you see this film?
This is a definite yay for me. I loved this movie. I thought it was fantastic. Honestly, it's really hard to go wrong with any of these Hammer Dracula movies.
Yeah.
They all have their good points, their bad points, but
sure.
So far, I haven't seen all of them, but so far, all of them that I've seen, I pretty much would give a yay because they're just so gothically fun, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you. It's a yay for me. The atmosphere, the creepiness, the vibe that it gives is all good. We talked about the acting performances. I know we only highlighted a few of them. There's really not a bad actor in this film.
No, they were all good.
They really sell the material.
Yep.
If they didn't believe in the performances, this could be hammy, right?
Yep.
And, something we didn't mention, this is 1970. What had happened 1 year earlier? The Charles Manson murders.
Oh, yeah.
I think this was influenced by those murders. You know, the way Lord Courtly, he had his kind of harem of women that all took care of him, even though he was poor.
That's a very good point.
I think real life influenced the fiction here, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a yay for me. I think it's some genuine creep factor happening here. Some real life drama, I think, you know, that we're witnessing on screen. Great acting performances. Some good screenwriting. Again, it's not perfection. We've talked about there's a few things I would tweak here and there. But yeah, it's a yay for me. In our previous episode, we reviewed The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. That inspired us for this next film that we're going to do, Sleepy Hollow from 1999. It is rated R for violence and excessive gore. Check that out. It is available on Amazon Prime. Kim will be back in our next episode, and we'll be talking Sleepy Hollow. Actually, it's going to be the first time we've seen this movie since it came out in the theater in 1999. So excited to see it after 24 years. We'll see if it holds up. Well, Mike, it's been awesome to have you on the show again. As always, it's a lot of fun.
I love coming every time. It's fun to talk about these movies and enjoy being on the podcast.
Thank you, sir. Have a safe and happy Halloween 2023.
Peace out.
Peace out.